Brian Tseng the SolarBee, his second time of buzzing around. We're happy to have you on.
Very happy. Yeah, thank you for coming back on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Bob and Lala.
Okay,
is it Layla or Lala? How do I pronounce your name?
It's Lala.
Lala. Okay, I want to make sure I'm getting that.
When she was born, she was Lara, and her dad instantly started calling her Lala, and it's been her name ever since. All right, Brian Tseng the SolarBee co-organized the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tour to assemble survivors of the Montauk Project for the 80th anniversary in Philadelphia. And Brian's a fascinating person to talk to about Montauk, which is one of the things I'm kind of obsessed with. He co-hosts the Disclosure Now YouTube channel with Arkheim Ra, with mission of forcing worldwide disclosure. And let me slow it down there and say www.fulldisclosuremovement.org is Brian's organization. We are super happy to have you on, Brian, because as usual, we're going to have an hour long of crazy stuff to talk about.
Is it recording?
It is recording.
Okay, last time it was recording.
Yeah, I remember that. It's not a big deal. It's okay.
Oh, it was so embarrassing, Brian. I'm so sorry.
It happens. It happens. And one thing I should have sent you an updated version of my bio. I'm on multiple other shows right now. I'm not currently.
Please list them all.
Yeah, and I'm not currently co-hosting the Disclosure Now podcast with Arkheim Ra, but I am on Agent X11 and Awake Nation with David Zublik and Penny Shepard. I'm on often as a co-contributor on Jessica the Cryptid Huntress's podcast.
Yes, we know her. We know her.
Yep, as well as a Typical Skeptic podcast with Robert Khalil.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I'm starting to be on more shows with Jenny Lee of JennyLeeSite.com, I think is her.
Right. Yeah. So Jessica and I are each hosts on sub shows on Spaced Out Radio.
Oh, Spaced Out Radio, SOR, excellent.
Yeah. I'm Science Bob on Spaced Out Radio. So if you will send us your updated bio, I will amend the show notes to include the current stuff. And it'll be instantly changed as soon as I have it.
And were you two at the Reno Spaced Out Radio shindig? I was there too.
Oh, I don't know how did you go out on the seeing tour with us where we and Melinda called in the host of Orbs?
No, I showed up at the resort casino that y'all were at to where you were broadcasting live with Dave, I think. And but that was excellent. Okay.
Well, that night we went to Virginia City, and after the Virginia City tour, we went out into the desert and called in an armada.
Yeah, yep. They're appearing for a lot of people in lots of places. And they were doing that before they were doing the whole worldwide, November 18th, 2024 sightings. Hey, Cairo Sounds. And so where would you two like to take the show today?
Tell us what you want to tell us, and we will interact and ask questions. But since the audience missed the beginning of last time for sure, I want you to tell us as much as you care to tell us about your interactions with the Montauk Project. You don't have to go cuckoo it, but I guarantee you, me and a bunch of other people are still obsessed with it.
Okay, so that's a great topic, Bob, right there, because when it comes to the Montauk Project, there's a lot of lore that's been whitewashed out there, in particular in regards to Preston Nichols and Al Bielek and Jack Pruitt, and then the one gentleman they called Duncan Cameron. However, we found other people in their community, namely Chris Leterrier, a French-Canadian, I guess I'd say survivor, victim of the Montauk Project, who's, I'm in contact with him and done couple interviews or shows with him now about his own Montauk experiences.
Well, the association that went with them, all of them, it's just got to be amazing to talk to these people that were utterly dissociated as youth, etc. And what they were after, giving people abilities and other things. It'd be interesting to know how it's impacted them now.
Well, it wasn't
Go on.
it wasn't that they were after people to give them abilities. It was they're after people who already had abilities in their DNA and in their energetic signature that the programs discovered one way or another and found to be extremely valuable. The most valuable abilities, psychic or psionic ability, was pretty much number one was portals. The ability to open up portals was a big one. And then other probably like more the ability to do psychic assassination. Hey, Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. And the ability to remote view, but that was kind of like, I guess, an easier one that's more accessible to most people, you know, in general already. But other people had the ability to apparently of a more energetic nature shoot energy bolts or fire or, you know, some kind of different telekinetic abilities that are way above the norm. And the problem was, especially in the case of opening up portals at the Montauk Project, Camp Hero, and I believe the military code name was Project Phoenix, when they were strapping the children into the Montauk trip chair, is what it was called, underneath in one of the sublevels of Camp Hero there at the east end of Long Island, New York State. The vast majority of those children died trying to open up portals.
Ooh. Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
And then after they got the children to open up portals, they would do things like experiment with those portals, send them through physically, or have them lying in the chair. And Chris Laterra and other people described this. And they said this was scary because a lot of children had already died at this point, apparently, by trying this particular experiment. And the experiment was, you would be brought to the chamber where the Montauk trip chair was. They would strap you down. They would put like a hairnet with all sorts of electrodes on it around your brain, leading to all sorts of equipment and stuff. And then there'd be like, Chris is pretty specific. I think he said there's like a projector there that was like would project images on the wall. And there might've been something else like kind of dangling down from the ceiling. And they'd open up portals on the wall, and then they would, in a trance state, leave their body in their astral body. Okay, they would leave out of their physical into their astral body, and then go through the portal. And the problem was, if one way or another you were through the portal and you got disconnected somehow, or the portal closed while you're astral projecting on the other side, that severed your astral connection to your physical body, and you died. So there were multiple children who died like that. They died in the chair. They died being sent physically to the other side. And so Arkheim Ra in our community, he describes Montauk 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. Okay. 1.0 was basically the messy early stages of trial and error and figuring it out, while Preston Nichols is strapping you into the chair and you're being MK Ultra'd and split. And that includes a lot of ritual abuse and all sorts of stuff in there that's not pretty, and which is not in the whitewash stuff to large extent, especially how much was perpetrated by Preston Nichols upon the children.
Well, I mean, are we, let me ask you this just quickly. Are we seeing Preston Nichols nearly whitewashed in addition to the children in Stranger Things?
Yeah, what Stranger Things did is they took there was a treatment, a film treatment or whatever called
No.
They're great. Don't worry about it. They're great.
yeah.
Well,
Ours will be loud in a minute.
Yeah, it was like a TV series treatment known as the Montauk Project Bible, right? And I think it was like, it looked like it was produced earlier on, like early 2000s, okay? And that got turned into the TV show Stranger Things with the Duffer Brothers. Okay, but I have a copy of this PDF of this earlier treatment that seems to predate them. And what I'm told is they were not allowed to call it the Montauk Project. They had to call it something else. So they called it Stranger Things. And what they really did is gave it like the actual project, a Hollywood Steven Spielberg 1980s E.T. children adventure Indiana Jones treatment, while leaving out the real motivations of why they were doing the Montauk Project. That's the number one thing we'll talk about. And then the, who, what, when, where, and how. Okay, the why was to figure out how to open up portals and then send people through those portals to then alter the timeline, the main timeline that affects the vast majority of us that we all vibrate along for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay, to put us onto the negative transhumanism timeline. Because Dolores Cannon and many others in occult and esoteric and paranormal, or just, beyond the 3D BS matrix traditions, talk about the two Earths, the splitting of the Earths, the timelines into the higher Christed timeline, and then the false Metatronic fake timeline, for fake spiral timeline, where it's like the way I kind of have heard it described, and I like to cite my sources when I can. I forget where this is coming from. Might be like Dolores Cannon, is or other QHHT practitioners. It's like when you think about it, you've got like a particle that can spiral all the way up and higher and higher and higher and higher and all the way up and out to the next higher dimension or realm. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you've got like a masquerading Metatronic, not Christed spiral that's kind of like piggybacking for the most part along, but then there's that inflection point where the Christed timeline breaks free to the higher realms. Well, the fake one doesn't break free. It splits and just keeps kind of circling around and then back down onto itself down the drain. Okay. And that's like the more Luciferian timeline, if you will, that, the archonic negative forces want to divert all of humanity and this timeline and every other timeline down because they have their own evil, dark purposes.
Mm-hmm. We got a question.
Yes.
Is that part of the Mandela effect? How? Because I swear it happens. I do. I think it does. Okay.
Yes, actually, I've got a challenge for you. This is my favorite recent Mandela effect. Do you have a print Bible in your home?
Do we?
Yes, we do.
I'm sure
If you can grab
several in the basement.
Okay, if you can, I know it's a challenge, or anyone out there, grab your print Bible, and where it used to say, "And the lion shall lay down with the lamb,"
dude, yes.
It now says in your print Bibles, everyone,
Wolf.
"And the wolf shall lay down with the lamb."
No.
Yep.
Yes, I challenge you. Well, you might want to check out your Bible whenever you get the chance. And
I remember lying from my father.
Of course. Anyone want to out there grab it in our audience? Grab their Bible and please confirm it. I believe it's like Isaiah, like 13:6 or 11:6, something like that. Hi, Kurt, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as well.
That was my mom. She would send that Christmas card out every year, the Lion and the Lamb. And so I remember this. It's strange. It really is.
So what I'm hearing is that you've got the Montauk Project in particular that has been heavily editing our timeline, and it's not good. Okay. And then at the same time, you've got benevolent forces or factions that want to help our timeline and unscrew what's been so messed up. And then you've got the negative groups, of course, who are generally confused and, doing whatever they're trying to do.
There's zero probability that this project has stopped. Zero.
Well, it's hard to say because let me go through Montauk phases 1, 2, and 3, and that'll kind of help kind of clarify a bit. So this is the messy phases where they're busing in children. And according to John Whitberg and others, there was a point where they literally encased the base within a time bubble, where if you approached it and got into this time bubble within this proximity, this enclosed dome area, it wasn't something you could see with a naked eye necessarily, but you went into it. It was like a late spring afternoon on a 1982 day, and then they froze it like that for at least a decade, I think, something around where 8 years to 12 years, something like that. And they were conducting the Montauk Project within that time bubble for a while. And they were doing it. They had a lot of ET observers who are positive and negative. And you might ask, well, how would positive ETs, and this is a question I had, why would they be peeking their heads in? Why wouldn't they just be shutting it down? Well, what I'm told, hey, Garrel, and Midwest Night Watchers and Skull Life, is that if we never went through this painful learning curve of the Montauk Project and the secret space programs, it would be a much duller timeline, not just for Earth and humanity, but for all the cosmos, all the other ETs, for many reasons, which that's worthy of another show in and of itself. Okay. And so Montauk 1.0, they're busting in kids, they're strapping them in the chair. They got them in dog cages stacked 3 high that are metal with just piss pans in, and they would hook up. This is according to multiple people now who are testifying to this to me privately, and I'm not feeding them information, and they're just sharing this pretty much, and then I'm verifying it in other places. They would hook up car batteries with jumper cables to the metal cages to electrocute all the kids and make them pee and poop themselves as punishment for whatever reason. And so it was where they kept the kids down some hallway or corridors away from the chamber with a Montauk chair in it. That was apparently a really stinky, smelly, bloody, unpleasant area. And the children were just treated as test subjects with no regard to them as human beings, much less children. 2.0, it seems like they started to weed out a number of children who, okay, you can open up a portal and keep it open that goes to a place that we want to go. And, you children seem to have the ability to go on missions and you come back, whereas everyone else we send through don't generally make it. So there's something about you kids, and so they've got kind of this crew. And now that they kind of went through the blind trial and error stages with the children, now they've got kind of more of time soldiers, where it's okay, you can go back to this. This was a one-time mission that Arkheim Ra remembers. And I've asked other people, and they said, psychics, remote viewers, or people who are telepathically in contact with ETs or Sasquatch, who are essentially, they're ETs as well, kind of. Although some are native to Earth. What was it? In their timelines, that was what was. Arkheim remembers a time mission where they all went back to Renaissance Italy, where there was where he would have been a historical figure who would have been a combination of Leonardo da Vinci and Nikola Tesla, in that with his experimentation, he would have either given us free energy or anti-gravity. It was one of those technologies. And then from what I've understand, those two are interchangeable. They go together. Okay, free energy and anti-gravity, and then the ability to open portals also comes with that.
Both of them are manipulations of the quantum vacuum to modify space-time or transfer free energy. Both of them involve the quantum vacuum. So I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yep. Yeah, and they were messing with that with the Philadelphia experiment, 1943, with the USS Eldridge and the Tesla coil generators that they stuck on each end of the ship. That's what I'm told. With an isolated center compartment, or that's what I've read and been told. And they went back in time. Basically, it was basically a messed up version of the movie The Adjustment Bureau.
Yeah, sure.
Where you just basically befriend the guy, and if he's on the verge of a scientific experimental breakthrough in his little Leonardo da Vinci type tinker workshop, you accidentally knock over a piece of equipment or make something disappear or burn down his lab. I think was like one of the final big ones. And Arkheim testified to me, he testified personally, but I think I can share it. It's like it's a testimony. There were times when apparently there was like a famous poet or writer who was supposed to come through that village to like specifically meet with this guy, and like the team made sure specifically that never happened, so he never got written into history from this one famous entry. And finally Arkheim said like when they completed the mission, they might have had to like do it multiple times, or at least more than the one time, because John Whitberg might have been tasked with doing it, and at the end like killing the guy and like couldn't bring himself to. So then for some reason they might have had to redo it, and then Arkheim did it, and then he was able to do it with his programming. And I have to emphasize, guys, this is all under extreme programming and duress and MK Ultra alters and drugs and psychotronic warfare and implants and ET technology and clones and alter bodies and stuff. So, and full disclosure, I'm told by multiple people, including Peter the Insider and Jessica Ariel Morocco, the ACIO, according to the ACIO databases. I did a 2-hour consult with them. I'm in there, and it's extensive, and I've got the recording, and I gave them permission to broadcast that on their channel. So, we'll see if that goes public, and then we'll share that around. But, and apparently that
we'll put it on our channel too.
I have a question real quick, if that's okay.
Sure.
The implants, is there a certain spot they put them in people? And also, what do the implants do to the people? What's the point of the implants?
So there are multiple implants and multiple levels of technology. Depends on who's doing it, which program. At the human level programs, and then the more ET, programs, which are a way higher level of technology, depending on which ET civilization you're dealing with. So a lot of people who have been in the programs, like Susan Long, Drago Reed, James Rink, Arkheim, and others, Gloria Haas, I believe, testify to having stuff put into the left eye. In general, it's the left eye. It might be a neurological thing for some reason to put in the left eye, because that seems to be more common. It could be more occult, symbolic, because a lot of these occults, they have the Egyptian Atlantean worship of the whole Osiris, Hathor, Isis, Anubis, whatever mythology, where in Sekhmet, where I forget if it's Anubis or Osiris, he gets chopped up into 13 pieces and gets reconstructed, except for the 13th piece, which was his penis. And then that also links to the Draco Reptilians, where in their culture they seem to worship the lizard phallus, the dragon phallus, which they call the Pindar. And David Purcell, I was talking to him about how he was being psychically visited at night by these reptilian beings in the astral. He's having these interactions with them, and he recalls literally just instinctively chasing them off by breathing dragon fire at them in the astral. and they're basically bowing at him and yelling, Pindar, 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 Pindar. And I'm like, as he's describing this to me, I'm like, David, do you know what Pindar means? And he's like, no, I don't. But I said, well, can you tell me, like, what do you think it means? He says, I keep getting this image of a lizard dick. And I'm like, yeah. What they were doing is they were yelling at you, Pindar, Pindar, you're the head lizard dick. We bow to you. We yield. Stop frying our asses with your dragon fire that you're frying us with in the astral. And he didn't know that, but and multiple other people told me what that name means, right? You know, and I'm just giving something like verification and discernment things. I'll give you another one. David Purcell, he's done 3 episodes now of the Typical Skeptic podcast with Robert Khalil, our good friend, because it's only in the last year and a half now that David himself has been unlocked. And a lot of people are like, they're skeptical. Well, all these people are just coming out of the woodwork at once. They're just making it all up because they read the same, comic book novels or something like that. It's like, no, okay, because of the timelines being resolved. That's one thing of like the Mandela effect in the Montauk Project in 2012 and us entering the age of Aquarius and a higher energy photon belt portion of the universe that we're waltzing through around the Milky Way on the 8th spiral arm. People are being more unlocked for whatever reason. Okay. They're getting access to remote viewing and quantum hypnosis and healing technique. And they themselves are being contacted by their starseed family in a much more overt manner than ever before. Or they were being visited all their lives, but now we're being able to keep our memories of the visitations. And that's why, there's a million explanations other than they're all just making it up, So going back to the ill-fated Leonardo da Vinci type figure, okay, because it's really illustrative of the damage that the Montauk Project, the derp state, has done to our timeline, to the children, to all of us, really, and done a huge disservice. Okay, and the best we can do is like recover it and flip it all around, but it's no thanks to them. Okay, Arkheim Ra remembers coming through a portal, going through, visiting, coming back from the Montauk base at Camp Hero, opening a portal, going back to that same Renaissance Italy village in like whatever 1500s Italy, 1400s, I don't know exactly. He doesn't either. And finding the other time soldier agents who by this point, maybe they were like a child who had been put into like a 15-year-old healthy body and then thrown back into Italy, and they've been programmed like the Matrix. They can download how to speak Renaissance Italian flawlessly, okay, and all sorts of stuff, and know all the customs and traditions and all the religious stuff and how to genuflect or whatever and not and pass, okay, and love all the foods. And you're just supposed to shadow the Leonardo guy, Leonardo Tesla, we'll call him. Okay, and just mess up his life every now and then, steal the right thing when you're told to, steal his diary when you're told to, and then sneak it back in so he doesn't realize that it was ever taken, whatever. Okay, and then when the mission's done, the guy's dead, the team has effectively erased him from our history, this timeline. Okay, you might have already had a wife and children. You certainly love the food because you don't eat like that back in Montauk in dog cages, fighting each other for sandwiches. Okay. Arkheim would come back and basically say, okay, soldier, the mission's over. You're coming with me. And they'd be like, no, I'm not. Right. And they'd run or whatever. And he'd have to use his psionic ability, like kill them even. And even if he killed them, you're like, oh, well, yes, they're dead. Okay, that's over. No. Okay, you take your body, bring it back. At the Montauk base, they had a regeneration tank. They called it the regen tank. They might have had multiple, but they had at least one. And apparently, if they can throw your body or enough of your body back into that tank and regenerate you physically, they could also call you back quantumly or etherically and suck you back, your soul, into your physical body. That's kind of like why they have that tradition of, you know, I mean, you don't, when someone passes away and in a funeral parlor, especially, you keep the mirrors covered up for at least 3 days. It's because apparently that person, their astral etheric soul body, while it's out and about visiting all of us and hanging around here often, not all the time, like for up to 3 of our linear time days, if they're going by a mirror, they could potentially get sucked into a mirror reality, which you don't want to do. And that's how you can have souls or beings or mirrors getting haunted, for example.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Well, I honestly believe that stuff. I covered up our bedroom mirror that's in front of our bed, and the activity
Ceased.
is
Pretty much
yeah.
ceased.
It's crazy.
Oh yeah, right. And then you can close the portal is what you want to do.
Yeah, well, we need you to tell us how to do it.
Yeah, for real.
Well, what I'm told is a lot of people can see the portals, and a lot of this it's like, oh, they're just making up in their head. Well, kind of. I mean, you are what I mean to us on the outside, but and I you know, I kind of a voyeur. I do this. I live vicariously through all of our friends. Where like we're at the Journey to Truth conference last year in Grafton, Illinois, last May, I think it was, and we're around like the campfire in front of the one lodge there, and you know, there's like we're hearing knocks and hoots and hollers and branches breaking, and people are like, yeah, Bigfoot's here. Cool. Okay. And it's like where? And like they're all pointing, and like Margie Kay and Kira Ingalls and others, they could see like Bigfoot. And they're like, oh, I think they're like, not only they could see a Bigfoot, they're like, one of them said, like, I think I see like a small one, like an adolescent, you know, a younger one with them. Like what? You know, and I could obviously hear the knocks and the hoots and the hollers and the snaps of twigs. Okay, from the 2 different directions on multiple of the 4 nights there, or might have 3 nights, I forget now. But it's kind of hilarious to me. They actually see this in their heads, in their mind's eye, and a lot of them can interact in the astral or however, whatever etheric quantum realm, and do things that apparently a lot of these ET beings really respect. And they're like, it blows their socks off that we as human beings, it's kind of, you know, like if like imagine if like a cockroach started like programming in front of you know, on like a keyboard, you kind of like, what the heck is going on, right? It's kind of like that. And so they'd literally have fights to the death with their own time soldiers to drag them back. Montauk 3.0 was basically one of the children, and the whitewash version, they say it was Duncan Cameron, and he summoned something known as Junior. Okay, the psychic Sasquatch, I believe people describe it as. John Whitberg says it's kind of like that, might be a little bit different. Chris Letterer, he has a pretty detailed recall, so I believe him when he says it. I'm just not sure if it exactly happens. He might have a screen memory, could be an alternate reality, a parallel timeline. So it's hard for me to say. But what his recall is that when he was growing up as a child, this is during the time that his mother had signed permission for him to be in the projects, and he himself as a child wanted to be in the projects at first, unknowingly. Because the recruiters who come to you, they're like these like military men in black looking type, crisp looking guys. And Tyler Koala of Journey to Truth and the conference, his conference series with Aaron Kuhn, he's also testified to this. What they do, and Daryl James and Tony Rodriguez, I believe, and others, they give you this great song and dance spiel. Hey kid, you want to help your country and the world? You're going to be above top secret clearance doing secret space missions. Oh, Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. You're talking Cyan and
Yes,
goggles.
I find it. Yes.
I have a pair here, actually.
Oh my goodness.
This is not an original Vietnam War pair. This is made from in Germany. People took the original formulation and then had a lab in Germany make that dye.
Wow.
And then these are coated with it. My one housemate business partner, Jaden Mills, he's an animal communicator. He can telepathically communicate with our dogs and a lot of other animals, but particularly dogs. He says at first when I got him, because I paid like $300 on him from eBay, and the person that I was messaging back and forth seemed pretty serious about him, and I think he had some pretty decent reviews already. When I asked Jaden about it, at first he's like, "Nah, they don't do anything," but then he said, "You know what? Let me, like a day or two later, let me try him again." He took him, and he's like, "Yeah, there's something about him, and definitely like the seller and other people recommend, don't wear them for extended periods of the time." At a time, especially when you first get them or when you're first trying them out, because they do have some kind of psychological or emotional effects upon you. Okay, but that's these. So
there you go.
I'll put them on while we're doing the show. There you go. So what happened was with Chris Letterer, they gave him a song and dance about how he's going to help his country, Canada, and the whole world, and have secret space missions. And when his father found out, and Chris has testified to this, he's been on a couple of shows now with me and others, but I've had him as a guest. I said, "Hey, Penny, David, you need to have Chris on here on Awake Nation or Agent X11 it was." What it was his father's brother had been a psychiatric patient under the infamous Dr. Ewan Cameron, who was a famous psychiatrist in Canada who became the head of the International Psychiatric Association, I think it was, for a decade back in like the 50s or 60s or 70s back then. I forget, but at least it was a decade, I think. And he was basically pioneering a lot of MK Ultra techniques with the Operation Paperclip Nazis coming over post World War II from Germany. And apparently Chris's uncle, his father's brother, did not have a good time as a patient under Dr. Ewan Cameron. And so, boy, I got to take these off. It's hard to, talk with those on like that for a while. And so when he came home and found out, because I forget he had a job that had him travel or something, he literally broke up the marriage to the mom.
Wow.
Okay. And, and so that's, yet another way that these programs traumatize our friends and family in the Montauk Secret Space Program military abductee community. Okay. And so, what was it? He recalls growing up, he had like a bed where he had it was like a bunk bed. So I don't know if he had a sibling or something, but he had like the blankets hanging down around him. And he had like these like Hanna-Barbera stickers, like 6 of them. They're like the Hanna-Barbera monsters. It's like Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, the Mummy. I forget who else. There might have been like a glowing blob or something, and might have been something else. Okay. And he recalls being strapped in. He recalls basically when it was his turn to get strapped in the chair. Before he was getting strapped in that particular day, he was in his dog cage, and he had his buddy who has like a real life, like 3D Surface World name, but then he has alters, so he's calling him Tony, I think it was his alter name of his buddy, this other child, like a 9-year-old, 10 or 11-year-old, that young, maybe even 8. And their children are younger there, who was like, he was in his cage looking out, and across from him was like a child who's already dead, and his body was being hung upside down, like by his feet, and his blood was being drained into a pan. And he said his buddy Tony, he wasn't sure if his buddy Tony was awake or not, but was like catty corner to him, but off to the side. Okay. And he's like, Tony, are you seeing like what I'm seeing? This guy that like our friend Paco, whoever, who's like his body, are you seeing this? And he was trying to say it like in a low voice, because if they spoke too loud, they get punished, like have like the cables hooked up to their cages and electroshocked, which nobody wanted, and obviously wouldn't make you popular with the other children, right? And that's a big deal there at the base, because there's a fight for survival every day. And so apparently Jack Pruitt comes over, takes Christopher out of his cage, and is walking him down the corridors to get to the chamber wherever they've got the Montauk trip chair at. And Jack Pruitt's doing his handler grooming thing, like, hey kid, we're going to do exactly what we're, we've been preparing, just like we talked about, and you're going to do it just like planned. And Christopher says he remembers being really nervous because he's the one who shared his testimony about how a lot of the children at that stage were dying because they were being put under in this trance state, and going through this astral projection through the portal, and a lot of them weren't making it back. So Jack Pruitt's walking them down the hallway, and Jack Pruitt was kind of like the military CIA project chief on the ground there a lot, over the people like Preston Nichols and Al Bielek, who are then watching over the children, the time soldiers, who they had like Arkheim Ra and Joseph Powell, among others, were some of the older children that they had kind of conscripted into like, you're like the sergeant now, and who were like forced to like then help MK Ultra and order around the other children, okay, that were slaves like themselves, and they're all helpless, okay. And Preston Nichols was a sadistic bastard who enjoyed harming the children in so many ways, which we won't go into. And Chris remembers Jack Pruitt taking him into the room with a Montauk trip chair in it and sitting him down into the chair. And apparently Chris was only wearing, like, he said to himself, like tidy whities, basically like underoos or whatever. And, like dirty, whatever. And he sits in the chair and it's like cold. He shivered. And he remembers like Jack Pruitt making a joke. Oh, sorry, kid. We forgot to have Preston here, warm the chair up for you. You're like an asshole. And then he said to Preston, like, get the kid, like, a shirt or something. And so he remembers like having like a smock or a shirt put on, so he's a little bit warmer, a little bit more comfortable, and they put like, he said, instead of like a hairnet, right, like you see in Stranger Things, with like the electrodes all over it. He said this time it was like kind of like more of like, instead of like a really cool hairnet, it was like kind of like a cheesy hairnet, like a lunch lady might wear, but like electrodes on it. And he was like kind of thinking, what's this? And Jack was saying something like, oh, don't worry, kid, it's like the same thing. We ran out of the other, nets or whatever to stick on you, but it'll do the same thing. Just like what we rehearsed, what you're going to do. Is like telling him about the mission. And he remembers him having like a mask or something with a blue lotus flower. Okay. And he said that Jack Pruitt, while Preston Nichols is putting the electrode wig thing on him and fussing with like the computer, like the stuff to like, focus a frequency and sound and set up the projector or whatever. He was saying that this blue lotus, it's a special flower that's been used throughout history to help enhance psychic abilities. Okay. And right now on Facebook, right, you see all these people, using like, what are your organic Blue Lotus from us, Egyptian harvests, here's our affiliate link below, and so he says he recalls going into a trance state in the Montauk trip chair while being strapped in. So it's like I guess he's strapped in the chair, so it's like he could just get up and jump out of the chair at any point. And he said he went into like an altered trance state, and maybe like a portal, either he opened the portal or they opened the portal for him, because by that point, like they were figuring out how to open the portals better than the Montauk 1.0, where they like went through like literally I hear it's tens of thousands, if not more, children figuring this out to get like 87 of them or something like that, or 88 who could like open up the portals and have them be stable and functional. And what was it? He left his body in the astral, went through the portal, did whatever he was supposed to do. When he came back into his body and woke up in the physical, he's looking around and there's no Jack Pruitt, no Preston Nichols in sight. Nobody. Okay. And he was just sitting there and he's thinking, and I guess he was like thinking about, he remembers his stickers. And so it's like his childlike memory. He remembers he used to take these stickers. They were glow in the dark. And every day before he left for school, he would take his stickers, go to his window, put them in the window to charge up. And then at night, they'd be all charged up. So he'd stick them back up on his wall and around him. Okay. And they'd glow in the dark at him, and they would help protect him and be his friends. Okay. Well, now when he's coming to back in the Montauk trip chair in a sub level, like one of the bottom levels probably of Camp Hero, okay, Army base, he said he opened up a portal on the wall, and he said like the Wolfman came through, and then the portal closed.
Oh my goodness.
And like the Wolfman, I'm asking like, what did the Wolfman look like? He was like full size and like kind of glowing, translucent, but not totally. And it was friendly to him. Okay. And it comes through. And then he said like Frankenstein came through, and like they just started rampaging, and he's just hearing screaming and like probably gunshots and stuff further down the base. He said the Bride of Frankenstein came through, where she's like electric shocky hair. Okay. And she kind of came through, was just chilling there at the chair with him. And then like he opened up another portal, another being came through, like the Mummy. Okay. And I forget if he opened up the portal. I don't know if it's like how many times, but I think those specific characters, he said portal open, came through, closed. Portal open, another one comes through, closed. Right. Because I asked him specifically about this. Like it wasn't just like a portal open, they all ran through at once, so they might have come from different places, wherever they came from, and through, and they started to wreak havoc around the base. And then at some point, Preston Nichols shows up, and Preston, I'm like, why did Preston survive? And he says, the lady knew that Preston would have to unstrap Chris from the chair and also lead him to the surface. Okay. And he says that he remembers like some physical evidence of this is that around like one of the elevator shafts, like there's like these metal girders. He says one of them, or like the elevator itself, should be dented because the Frankenstein monster was like super strong and like rammed like into the elevator thing. Okay. And like left some huge dent. And he says like Preston, and he just says he has no idea where Jack Pruitt went. It ended up where he and the other children were up on the surface, probably by where the radar, the really famous Sage radar tower is. It's like under there is where they used to have it. I think it was. And And they had a whole maze under there of hallways and corridors and tunnels, and even a deeper level that apparently no one knew about, which we'll talk about that another show. But that's pretty wild. So I don't want to go.
I mean, the radar tower is still there.
Yeah, it's still there. Oh, I've been there. I was there for the 2023 Montauk Adventure Tour with James Rink and like 20 other people. It's pretty wild. And the children were brought to the surface, and they were loaded up into these long yellow school buses, but with blacked out tinted windows. Or I don't know if they were yellow, but he said the windows were all blacked out, and they were given like army clothing to wear, like army sweatpants that were like way too large, t-shirts and sweatpants are way too large, but it's something, and loaded up on a bus. But he was like loaded into a separate car and taken somewhere else. And he remembers like car rides back and forth to the base where they dose them on LSD, and they just like talk to the kids would talk amongst themselves with the driver, because they were driving from Canada down to Niagara across the border, down all the way down to upstate New York, and then down to Long Island, and then to the end to Montauk. So they were these long, he said, like at least, I forget, like 8 to 13 hour long trips. I forget like how long, in car rides. Usually the one male driver, if not two, and then at least 2 or 3 were 4 kids. Would be like the one driver, one kid sing shotgun, and then 3 kids in the back. And but yeah, that was his recall of some of his recalls at Montauk and how it ended. And so my understanding is at that point, what Arkheim Ra says is there was a time period where the children took over the base, and they tried to use the Montauk trip chair to do time missions to help undo the damage that they'd been forced to do with all the previous missions under Preston Nichols and Al Bielek and Jack Pruitt and all the rest. And
I mean, look, Preston Nichols and those guys, they cannot be the generals, etc., way up here that are choosing these time missions. Do we know who that is?
This gets us to that bottom secret hidden level. Apparently, it was some ancient AI quantum computer that other people recall meeting with. It was like in the bottom sub-level. And you'd go into some giant room, and it didn't have a physical form, but it would like appear to you holographically in whatever form, often as a black cube. What do you know? Okay. And apparently that was the computer that would it might have been through other computer terminals for the people in the control rooms, just spit out orders like, do this, these are your directives.
It's and like you never quantum computing based artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that was like itself a time traveling and evil for its own it might be like ancient, and no one exactly knows where it came from or how it got there, but apparently it's waiting for them. It was there. Okay, so and there's a lot of high strangeness around the Montauk Project, because there's a lot of ET races that they'd stop in because they want to just observe humanity's like taking our steps and make sure we didn't screw anything up, not just for ourselves, but also because if we screw up like timeline stuff, it could mess up their stuff too.
Sure.
At which point that gives them every right to come in, shut us down, do whatever it takes to prevent that.
I have a question. Did anyone, I think I heard some people in charge of MK Ultra got in legal trouble, right? Did the Montauk, did they get in legal trouble at all?
Well, Montauk has never been officially recognized. Mm-hmm. So the Montauk, the MK Ultra projects themselves, previously known as Project Artichoke, I think it was. Mm-hmm. They had it in Canada, they had it in the US, they had it in Australia with Sir Anthony Kidman and the Illuminati down there. Which is the father of the famous actress Nicole Kidman. And then Tom Cruise himself is in the secret space programs and in the projects. He's basically a clone, or we see clones of Gabriel Kruger running around down here on Earth, known as Tom Cruise. And he's probably got cool alters and clones, and he's got some really nasty ones that you don't want to mess with. Kevin Spacey is supposed to be a clone alter of Paul Serene, who's supposed to be a famous royal person who's part of or somebody who's somehow known here on Earth otherwise, but who's part of the breakaway civilizations as well.
Well, let me ask you a question before we run out of time.
Yep.
Is the genesis of the collection of techniques we, the collective bad guys in our country, used to do all of this stuff, Nazi German and concentration camps?
Were we using Nazi concentration camps, or are we saying?
No. Where did the techniques come from people who worked at?
Well, it comes from before that. It comes from the negative Draco reptilians and the negative Jahami or Anunnaki, with the Molech and Baal and Baphomet type worshipping cults that they then got their human puppets hooked onto and performing.
You definitely have to come back. We gotta go over this more than once.
And real quick, I just want to say that the time soldiers apparently were able to take over for a little bit, but then the negative elements came back and swarmed the base to take over. Okay, and then shut down Camp Hero and abandoned it and kind of decommissioned it and made it all janky, and then later flooded it, and then relocated it to the Presidio, where you had Michael Aquino and Douglas Dietrich talking about the ritual abuse of children with the daycare centers at the Presidio, and their temple is set in the Satanic Church, and also under New Orleans, and then probably under Pine Gap, Australia, among other places.
I want to ask real quick.
Go ahead. We got time.
If someone wants to look into all this and go down the rabbit hole, where are some good places online that they can start looking that'll lead them? Because there's so much to look through,
Let's see. Our good friend Michael Roser of Dark Hour Paranormal did an amazing YouTube. It's on YouTube and other places probably, called The Lost Souls of Montauk.
Okay.
You can hear testimony by people like Alondra Markman on Age of Truth TV with Lucas Alexander. Hey, Wes Decker. You can watch, there's something called the Montauk Chronicles. Not the Peter Moon one, but there's a documentary movie done by an independent filmmaker, which is pretty good. Watch all the interviews from months ago that I was on, in particular with Arkheim Ra, where we talk about his recalls of the Montauk Project, because that's why I'm able to kind of share his testimony, because I've heard it a lot by being on other shows where he's sharing with people, and then how it interlinks with everyone else's testimony, because they all corroborate. What do you know? So yeah.
Do I have time for one more?
One more.
Okay. This is really interesting. Sorry. Do you?
We got plenty of time, so it's up to you guys.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Do you think there are people?
Hang around, folks.
Do you think that they're still doing it to people? And is that what the when people get abducted, they say there was humans there and aliens? Is that part of the Montauk? And also, what are some signs that you might have, what if I would have gone through other signs that someone has gone through this, but they're blocking it? Things like that.
Okay, so there's a number of phenomenon that's all getting jumbled together because it's all happening, and it's already confusing enough for the person experiencing it. But then trying to understand it from the outside, you're going to think the person is crazy for the most part. And this is why. Because a lot of people, the way that they get targeted, from what I can tell, and according to other people, so it's from what I gather, is that they may be a starseed from Lyra. And they've lived many thousands of years in previous lives as cat people or tiger people or lion people, like our friend Christy Mae Wixon, who lived lives as one of the Katai. They're more tiger people, as opposed to the Irma, who are lion people. And these species keep popping up over and over in the lore. You wonder why.
Right.
Okay, it's because they're real people. And so, she's incarnated down here. Let's say her starseed family, they send a ship in the physical, in the here and now, to visit her as a young girl when she's growing up. And they just want to kind of beam up her etheric body and just be in her check her out, like make sure she's okay. They might put in an implant into her, not in the left eye to track you or to have cybernetic implants, which is like why they use the left eye a lot in the Kruger and a lot of the secret space programs, and up and Nachtwaffen and on the ships, apparently, for some kind of data, sharing and the optic nerve and all that. They might put in more of an etheric implant into you to help keep track of you and keep you safe, so that if you do get taken somewhere wild, like a deep underground military base where they're like certain, it's hard to get to physically, perhaps even for them, and it has certain precautions and safeguards and ET technology, well, at least they've got their own tracker in you.
Okay.
But it's not necessarily a physical tracker that you could find physically. It might be more of an etheric thing that someone who in the astral or with their third eye, they can energetically see it and even interact with it.
That's interesting.
Okay. And then at that point, that your starseed family, they visit you. You have a wonderful, amazing dream that night. Oh, I dreamed about tiger people visiting me, and I was flying around a ship around the earth. It's not flat, everyone. And it was so cool. And then they brought me back. And then now the secret space programs, they're like, okay, hey, we've got someone down here in this neighborhood, in Maine or wherever, who we've got gamma ray bursts, and our remote viewers have confirmed this. A ship has appeared to this person. We've tracked it to this young gal, and they're not like, oh wow, what do you know? It's a young gal. They know it's a child. Like, children are often like visited by many star family all over. That's why there's so many testimonies out there if anyone bothers to look. So now you're targeted by a secret space program. Now you might get picked up by nasty ETs like Greys, who are contracted by the negative Anunnaki or mantises or reptilians to come take you, to grab some of your DNA and run you through some of their experiments.
Hybridization?
Yeah, hybrid, exactly. It's all, the name of the game is always hybridization, because the main most valuable black market in the known universe is apparently the genetics black market trade. Because with genetics, you can make and create any life form.
True.
You've got the genetics for that, you can combine like Tinker Toys.
Let me make a comment. You are the first person I have heard or talked to that can put consistent motives together for all of this. The first person.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's why I'm a self-appointed volunteer organizer advocate for the full disclosure movement.
Yeah, and it's easy. You say it very clear, neutral. It makes me understand it, because I've always had experiences. A lot of stuff you say make me go, oh my God, that's me. Or, but it's so much so that there's a wall that goes up, and it blocks me. So this is nice how you break it down and explain everything.
Yeah. I love questions. I got time. So, and I know Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot had some comments or questions.
Here's this last one.
So Mars, driven hunger for power, the new AI devised a sinister plan. It manipulated the black cube, inserting a malevolent code that triggered a time loop, a cycle of endless resets of human civilization.
And comment, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot, is that every 12,070 whatever it is years.
Oh, those are the resets for humanity in general.
It looked like what he said was They do a cycle of endless resets.
Okay, so you're saying Mars had created a utopia with advanced AI enhancing every aspect of their lives, said to be a black cube. That may be it. So I'm not. Some of this information kind of lines up, and then others I'm not sure about. So I won't speak to what Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot's saying so much
Okay.
as, you know, the Saturnian black cube technology. Apparently, there's a lot of it on Saturn, and that's where you got that hexagon shape that's been there forever.
Yeah.
It's kind of freaky. Apparently, negative energy or frequencies are being beamed from that to the moon in particular, and then to Earth from the moon. Okay. And this is part of the negative archonic Draco, Gray, Anunnaki, whatever, all the negative ETs who want to harvest us as a prison loosh farm for blood products and genetics and spiritual energy. They benefit from having Earth and what's known as like a geodetic energy Earth reversal grid or something like that, where Earth normally we would have a lot of heavenly energy flowing to us and through us and through our planet unencumbered and undistorted. But imagine if instead you've got this energy coming in, but it's first the light energy, for example, is distorted through filters and funhouse maze mirrors. Okay. So we're here, we're in this reality, but it's totally distorted with the energies reversed and messed with. And then sure, we can, do things and have love and happiness to a certain extent. But there's always certain things that there's a monkey wrench in there. It's always kind of gets in the way that just, for some reason, and then oftentimes it's way more twisted than we think. When you look under the surface, it's like, what's going on here?
Right.
People talk about the soul trap and, it's not the firmament as a hard thing necessarily. I don't think
it's energy barrier.
There's an energetic barrier, an energetic firmament that especially the Farsight Institute and others like Wes
I was
Penn.
going to ask you about Courtney Brown and his current stuff about the good ones coming back to waking us up to the bad ones and help us break that energy barrier. I was going to.
And he's right. He's right because I'm friends with Yemi Genet, who's a close colleague of his, and I've had the pleasure and honor of being on one show of a Typical Skeptic podcast. I think it was, or it was a Virtual Temple Complex with Nathan Cizik, and I think Robert Khalil was there as well, though.
Okay, let me talk to Mr. Bauer, our friend. So I have input and any new comments. So
Greer is a shill. I'll call Greer out as a shill.
Look, you and I completely agree.
The reason why
he tells some stories, but he completely enhances the stories to make himself look like he's king of the hill. The archive itself has a lot of good information in it.
Right. My whole thing about Greer is the way he's used to interpret, like at the Dave Grush Pentagon hearing, at the very end after they release all this amazing information. Someone even asked, it might have been a senator, about human ET hybrids and other type of projects. And at the very end, they pan the camera over to Dr. Greer and they say, Dr. Greer, what do you think? And he says, well, there are no bad ETs. We're the bad ETs, humans. And it's like, really? That's your line? Like all of this research that's out there that I, as Brian the SolarBee civilian in my gaming chair has had access to, everything he's had access to, he should know darn well about the Draco reptilians and all that. And the deep underground bases, like Lou Shilizondo, when they asked him if deep underground military bases are a thing, he said, oh no, they're BS. Really? Okay, we've got video already all over the internet of people driving semi-trucks through like miles of underground tunnels and all that, and plenty of documentation.
We have a friend that lives in Sedona who took me out to Bradshaw Ranch, and we looked over the hill, and she is now seeing stuff coming in and out of the base, escorted by military aircraft, but otherwise they're UFOs, and discovered through property research that the cement factory, quote, cement factory that was on the edge of that property was owned by Lockheed Martin.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So, and this Lala she's been taken many times on MILAB and others, and had some kind of, I'll let her tell it, but her mission, her communication says that she's Lyran and so forth and so on. So let her look. No, come back and talk, because you're my.
And she's Lyran. She might have like cat or tiger or lion people in her starseed lineage.
So the only reason I know this because years ago before bed, I looked up at the stars and I said, "Where am I from? I don't feel like this home." And that night I had a dream and someone said, "Look up M56." And when I woke up, I did. And that's when I found out about Lyrans and Palladians. And I didn't know about any of this stuff. It was amazing. So that's what I knew.
This is one of her quote dreams.
What happened probably is because your starseed family is always monitoring you. They're always with you, right? We're not alone.
We definitely know that.
Right. So at the point where they're picking up telepathically, you're wondering as a child, where am I from? Then they have the ability to visit you in your dream. And it's because they're your starseed family. That's the work around the prime directive. Okay. Is that you're their incarnated child or daughter on Earth.
The first person that's ever made a statement that made sense.
So the Starseed program gives our ET family skin in the game of humanity by them incarnating their own chosen sons and daughters, and and sure they've got multiple genders depending on ET races, not humans aside. You can incarnate down here to be their representative, their mission agent, and you signed up to do so.
Well, sorry and thank you, I guess I should say.
Right. So here's Carol.
Carol's a friend of mine, and we've been interacting for a while.
Okay,
go ahead and
there
make
you
your
go.
comment.
Yep. See, originally from Lyra, family there, abducted 28 years ago, multiple implants, contact with multiple races. So exactly. And so
Carol and I met each other in and around the Richard Dolan Forum, and we've been interacting for a while. And I know how much he knows that I wish I knew.
Yeah, I've been gathering all these answers like really in earnest in the last 2.5 years. That's the really the privilege of being a member of this community is like we can crowdsource above top secret, above military grade, above White House level. We're at cosmic clearance intelligence, and I'm sitting here in my gaming chair. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's hilarious.
Well, this gaming chair is not very comfortable, but I do sit in it.
Right. Well, get yourself some padding.
Yeah, exactly. Some that works. All right, let's do the last thing. What do you want?
I guess I want to know now. I know this sounds weird, but I always felt like I was on a mission.
She is.
What the hell? Are we just? What are we supposed to do? What's the point?
Exactly what we're doing now. Because at the end of the day, for humanity to ascend in this timeline, along with Mother Earth or Ishtar, from the 3rd to 4th to 5th density of consciousness as a whole, we have to anchor in the light. We have to raise the vibration of humanity overall. And the way that we're doing it is we're sharing the knowledge and spirituality and the work and the who we are in each and every one of our starseed ways to then kind of like show like Starbelly Sneetches, but better, hey, I can do that too. Or, however you want to call it, the 100th monkey effect. Right. We're the 100th monkeys sent down here that we signed up for. That's why we have missions to then, in whatever way whatever gifts, whatever knowledge and wisdom and work that you can do and share and through your children and your friends and spread around, like you're like running around like with a candle and you're trying to grow it into a torch.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me tell you our kind of goofy story because I know it's true. We were on our back deck and we'd been seeing stuff for a while and interacting with stuff for a while. We knew stuff was here. We got stuff on it. We got full-bodied beings walking up to our house on our video cameras. Okay, so we're sitting on the deck. We're taking pictures of the orbs flying over our house. And she says, "Oh, give me the camera." She takes the camera, takes a picture, and then the camera is this 6 feet in front of us. Was this blue being that looks like a gray alien with a little bit of smoky stuff around it. And later, I don't hear it, but she is talking to her telepathically. You're muted. Talking to her telepathically and saying, "We need you to do help with soft disclosure and do other things. Go out and tell people. But because we believe in free will, you are required to talk with each other, agree to do it, and then tell us you agree." So this sounds like the good ones because we agreed. Please tell us it was the good ones.
Yes, because they gave you free will instead of manipulating you.
Right.
Like they could have showed up to you in a dream and offered you food or had you sign a contract to be a rock star, and then in the negative agenda ETs, that's those are tricks that they will
She
play.
is so smart. She got to tell you how many dreams she's had where they showed up offering her food.
Lately, it's
Right. If they offer you food in your dreams, don't take it.
fucking do it.
No, she just knew not to do it.
Yeah.
Something
Right.
protected her, or she just knew already.
Right, because that's entering into a contract or an agreement unknowingly a lot of the time.
I
And
just
so-
want. I know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay.
go ahead.
I just want to ask real quick. Do you know if the V shape means anything? Because I woke up with a V bruise, and also when I was awake, orange orbs went to a V shape. So do you know what the V means at all? Have you heard of anything?
Not
Let
in
me expand on it.
Yeah, good.
The bruise was on her breast, and it looked to me like a bite mark with where the mandible or maxilla was V-shaped.
Okay. So it's not necessarily the shape so much as the mark itself.
Yeah. What has V-shaped bite mark? Or it was just V-shaped bruise, and I called it a
like
bite.
A symbol or anything? I don't
How
know.
large was it?
Like, I guess that big.
It was 2-inch legs.
Okay.
I'll show
It's
you
hard to
pictures later.
it's really hard for me to say.
Then we'll
There's
send
so
you the
many-
picture.
Yeah, but it's just there's so many, there's such a wide variety of reasons why it could be. Like for all you know, it could be positive ETs putting in an implant they chose there, and it looks like a bite mark, but it's not. It's like
Right.
from the implants.
All right,
For all you know,
let me ask you the following question because it's important to us.
Yeah.
She had a bruise after what was clearly an abduction-like event because I was put to sleep and didn't wake up until noon, which is unusual for me. And it looked like a pneumatic injection point because of the shape of the bruise and how it did. Is that MILABS or ET?
again, it could be either. You know, because with a lot of the programs, especially or apparently the ETs, it depends on the program and the why of it, how. But apparently, a lot of them are on, especially the negative ones. They're like they have to be in and out within a certain period. Otherwise, they're in violation of a treaty. And something like 4 hours, they got to have you picked up, done whatever, and then return back where you are within 4 hours. So there's ways that you could like, stall them and fight them off. Sometimes they'll have to like ditch you and like they can't get you that night because it's
Or they put you out anywhere to punish you.
well, and there's that. Or some people have talked about there are grays who they themselves are enslaved by the big bully ETs, the Draco, and the Jahami, for example, or Anunnaki, some of them. And they're being made to abduct humans and extract sexual genetic material or whatever. And as a form of protest, like they'll put the wrong clothing on you or put it on backwards. It's not like they're stupid and they don't know. It's like, no, that's actually them, their version of sabotaging, putting a claw.
We have a very good friend who has been abducted many times, brought back, put out not where it was, but her clothes on backwards or whatever.
Right. So they don't. That's protesting of the Greys, who are being the little worker bees and some probably more nefarious human ET hybridization project, and that's their form of kind of letting the human know that, okay, like you know that, we know that you know that we know.
Well, Brian, it was great. We're hang on. After we shut the show down, we're going to talk to you for a few minutes and schedule your earliest possible return.
Excellent.
Everyone, think this is the most valuable show we've done to the two of us. I hope it is to our audience. Okay, so let us. 361 people are viewing, and it'll grow over the next week. Thank you very much to everyone. It was very enjoyable. Brian's a great guest, and we will have him back soon. Just pay attention because it may be on a different night than normal.
Oh yeah, right now, there's the Awake Nation and Agent X11 podcasts or shows on Rumble that I'm on with David Zublik and Penny Shepard, and also there's my conference series. fulldisclosuremovement.org. We still haven't raised the prices from the Super Soldier early bird tickets for individuals and couples. So if you can get your tickets now before my web admin gets to it, before pricing goes up slightly, here's your best pricing. And also the resort, the Sarada Beach Resort, is honoring a conference rate discount. Just call into the main Sarada Beach Resort number. Info is on our website. Let them know that you're with a conference and you get that applied. And we have a sister event. But wait, there's more. We have the Day of Being 5.0 in their 5th year. It's a free beach weekend at nearby Indian Shores Beach. It is so fun and beautiful there. And so I hope you all can make it. And thank you, Bob and Lala.
Oh, it's amazing. So we will work out you sending all of that to me so I can put it in show notes and we'll put it on our page and all this other stuff. Thank you, everyone. Don't worry. He will be back.
Yeah.